Good evening, everyone, and welcome to SIGA Sports Integrity Week at the focus panel discussing India and developing markets. My name is Vivek Sethia, and I'll be moderating today's panel. I am the founder and CEO of India on Track, one of India's leading grassroots and sports marketing organizations. The topic for today's discussion is integrity and the emerging sport market. We're going to discuss various aspects of sports integrity in developing markets, and especially in India. Today, we're going to discuss various challenges pertaining to policy and practice. We're going to discuss the hurdles that we face in building an overall integrity ecosystem. We're going to discuss and have a debate between profit and proprietary. And of course, we're going to discuss overall the importance of investing in an integrity system. We have a great set of panelists today. They have great experience in the field of integrity within our country. We have Justice Muddal. He's the former High Court judge, the chairman of FIFA Governance Committee, and the head of IPL Pro Committee. Welcome, sir. We have Mr. B.B. Mishra. He is the head of Integrity Probity Sport India, and he's also the member of the IPL Pro Committee. We have Mr. Onkar Kedia. He is the Director General of Sports Authority of Assam and former Special Director General of Sports Authority of India. Welcome, sir. And we have Mr. Vidushpat Singhania. He is the Managing Partner of Krida Legal and Member-elect Oversight IAAF. Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. Justice Muddal, I'll begin with you. Of course, cricket is India's religion, and no discussion on sport in India starts without having cricket involved. Of course, the Indian Premier League a few years ago, about 6 or 7 years ago, faced a rather decisive situation with regards to certain allegations on spot fixing and so on. And you were leading the much publicized IPL probe. What we wanted to understand, what were some of the big challenges that you faced while leading that probe, and what was your experience there?
Well, the challenges were, if you talk to the player, they naturally would not like to comment or commit themselves or say anything against the owners, which is perfectly understandable, and one wouldn't blame them for it. Secondly, this was an established system, which was functioning, and to shake it up was not an easy task. People were not happy about it, but fortunately, it was Supreme Court mandated, so we were able to get it through because of that, from time to time. So there were, whenever there is an intense power system, if some outsider comes in and starts looking at it, then it's not viewed very favorably. And this is not only in cricket or in sports, in any field of life, be it commerce, be it industry. So that, I think, was some of the challenges.
Yeah. And sir, do you think that after that probe, India as an overall sports, in our sports industry, there were some permanent changes that were made with regards to how integrity is seen after that much publicized probe?
Yes. You see, the government of India brought in a sports code, much debated, and it had some very wholesome functions of tenures, age limits, and other integrity-related issues. So I would say more details, I'm sure Vidush will give you because you are associated with it. Now, therefore, I would say that yes, reforms began in other sports bodies also generally, and yes, sports code is a desirable thing. If it becomes an act, it will be even better.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Mishra, you were also involved in the probe and as a part of the committee. Did you see that after the IPL situation, do you see some of the other leagues adapting a change strategy towards integrity, or have you seen? I think we might lost him. Vidush, will you be able to kind of comment on this?
No,
Are you seeing some of the other leagues make an adaptation based off of what happened at the IPL?
So I'll take from Sir's point and then probably add to the league point as well.
Yeah.
So once the IPL Pro finished, quite few essential issues were realized. First, what was happening is when earlier, before the IPL Pro, what we found is that the anti-corruption people were all coming from the ICC. And they were all speaking in English and with their own accent. which a lot of the Indian players who were maybe coming from modest backgrounds were not able to understand. So what we got the feedback from a lot of the players is, oh, those guys come and they speak, we can't understand, but we have to keep nodding our head and we have to listen, and then we sign that we've attended. So that changed post the IPL Pro, where BCCI started getting in local people or people from India who could speak English and Hindi, or maybe speak the regional language as well. So the effectiveness of the education were increased. That is, I think, one of the key takeaways as well. Second, what happened is, education was still at the top level. It was not going down to the second level, third level, and the grassroots level. What BCCI are doing is they started educating more young players and players even at the Ranji and at the grassroots level, so that at least they also became part of the integrity program. They also became aware, and largely also because the IPL Pro, everybody got to know what match fixing, spot fixing is, how Supreme Court look into it, how what kind of every day you were in the news. So everybody, that entire conception of what is right, what is wrong, and what can happen with bans to teams that they got banned to certain officials and certain players, really led to a large public awareness on this. And third, one of the more important things that happened is the ombudsman was appointed, who not only looked into this integrity, but into match fixing, spot fixing, but also related to conflict of interest. What was also seen before that, a lot of conflict of interest where one person was occupying 3-4 positions. Therefore, this whole attitude of secrecy was there. Now that kind of that is the process of changing that started with the ombudsman and a conflict of interest rules. How that goes ahead, we'll still have to see. So that is probably some of the changes I thought have come across in the BCCI post the IPL Pro. The second, when you talked about new leagues.
Yeah.
Now, new leagues, what is happening? Again, I'm advising number of leagues, and I'm advising number of issues on integrity and how to set up integrity structures in these new leagues. Now, what happened goes back to the sport federation. Now, most of the national sport federations in India itself don't have an anti-corruption unit in place. Most of the time the leagues have to actually request the federation to set up an anti-corruption procedure in place, and maybe appoint somebody who under whom technically the leagues are generally only the commercial and management rights holder. They may have personnel, which B.B. Mishra sir, I know, working with Probability Sports India, has been leading investigation for Indian Super League and Big Bout League and some other leagues in India. So they all have to be incorporated and have been told that need to have an integrity officer. And most of the time, they don't have a budget for it. Most of the time you get back, not like a league like Indian Super League, or maybe smaller leagues. They say, why do we need to spend? Kya zarurat hai? What is the need? That is the question. And they say we have much more important thing to spend on. Integrity is certainly not on the top list for them.
Absolutely.
So that is one of the key issues.
And Mr. Mishra, Vidush brings a very critical point here, that at the end of the day, there are the leagues look up to the federation to give some governance around integrity, right? And leagues are always conflicted that they don't have too much funds, whether they should invest in integrity and so on and so forth. So where do you see, from your experience, either with the IPL or now ISL, where do you see whose responsibility should it be? And we'll bring in Mr. Kedia as well, because is it at the SAI level or the sports ministry level, or is it at the federation level or the league level? Where does the responsibility lie?
Good evening to all of you. I'm very happy to see Justice Mudgal today, with whom I work in several committees. Thank you. Now, as far as the movement is concerned, the integrity issue, this has been with us for a long time. And I think it was in 2011 that the first sports development bill was prepared. But it did not become an act. It did not go to Parliament. It was not passed by the Cabinet. Then again in 2013, there was another bill which was prepared, which again could not be passed, which could not become an act. In between, there were also attempts to formulate and revise a sports code. Although a sports code has been existing for a long time, what I feel is government can can give the structure, can give the framework. But it is actually the sports associations, the Indian Olympic Association, the state associations, the state Olympic associations. They have to drive sports in a way. And government will be able to give the structure. So although the bill could not be passed, the bill did not see the light of the day, a sports code was already existing, which gave the basic tenets of integrity. The only issue is how much it could be implemented. Because I worked in the sports ministry and I found that it was not always easy to literally implement or to strictly implement the sports code provisions, which were quite strict insofar as integrity is concerned. Because the architecture of sports is such. The government of India recognizes the sports bodies, but the sports bodies also have to be recognized by their international federations. So if there is a situation where the government of India de-recognizes a sports body for not following the integrity provisions of the sport code, but that body continues to enjoy the patronage of the international body, the entire conduct of that particular sports may be in trouble. Yeah. So those were the practical issues which were there.
Yeah. And Mr. Mishra, what Mr. Kedia mentioned was that there is, of course, the role of the ministry or the government, which is with regards to creating a framework. And then it's probably up to the associations or the federations to execute that framework. But the reality of what also Vidush mentioned is that most sports in India, the federations have very limited budgets. However, the leagues which are more independent commercial entities are where the action is, right? So, for example, if you take the example of Indian Super League, of course, it is under the aegis of AIFF. However, it is commercially run separately. So where does the responsibility stand? So if the federation is not providing enough implementation of the guidelines that are set out, where do the leagues go? Like, do the leagues then invest upon themselves to create these structures? And it's probably very easy to say, let's not invest on this and see when the issues happen, we'll tackle them later. So where do you see that balance as to where the investment should come from?
I think it has to be with the leagues. Those who have the funds, they have to pay for it, because ultimately the success of the league will depend on robust integrity measures. I don't see much of a possibility if integrity is seriously compromised. A league will survive very long. After some time, the league will collapse, because finally people will not like to see such matches, which looks like a stage drama on the field.
Absolutely.
So that is one. But the other aspect, for what I feel is quite important in the Indian context, is that the crime is a state subject. We being a federal state and crime being a state subject, even if Government of India enacts something, the implementation lies with the state, because the police is under the state. Yes, once in a while the CBI takes up some matter, but this is not basically the cup of tea of CBI. CBI is an anti-corruption agency basically against government, not into these bodies. So this dichotomy that the states have the responsibility of law and order, which includes crime, this will have some problems, because all the states will not look at the issues in the same manner. There will be differences of perception. Now, if Government of India is enacting something which will be uniform for all the states, then in my view, would there be something which the Government of India will have to implement these rules also? maybe a small wing of CBI or something, so that implementation is also uniform.
Yeah,
that is one issue. And basically, you have to keep in mind the center state framework in such things. That will be the operational side of it.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. And Justice Mudgal, you have a role with FIFA, and you've experienced some of the formats and structures of more developed markets. What do you think are some of the best practices that India can adopt, and where do you think we are lacking the most with regards to integrity?
Well, I'd like to tell you, prior to 2016, FIFA were undergoing convulsions because of the corruption charges against the then president and various other officials. In 2016, FIFA decided to shed those practices and started on the road to reform. Eventually a structure was introduced where the reform started from the top, player level, yes, but even the president, all office bearers. Let me tell you, I'm the chairman of the review committee, which is an independent body. The other member is a Bank of Finland president. None of us associated with any footballing association. And one more is from Peru. He has been a top government advisor. Now, even the president, before he conducts an election, has to undergo an integrity check, which is conducted by our committee. Unless we give a clearance, he cannot come in. So strict is the structure there. There is an ethics committee which investigates. Which has an investigating wing, which also has an adjudicatory wing. So these are the kind of structures. And now, let me tell you, today, FIFA is on a very firm footing as far as issues of integrity, governance, human rights, all these. There are special committees for each of them. And even in the governance committee, the majority of members are, where I am on the chairman also, majority of the members are independent members who are not associated with any FIFA body. Some have records in human rights. I have a record, good or bad, in judiciary. And there are one in finance, one in public administration. Of course, there are 4 members which are also from various associations, but we play an independent role. And this is the kind of a structure which, if adopted in the Indian format, would give a long way to ensure that, particularly the vetting of people wanting to hold posts, that is very crucial.
And Vidush, just what Justice Mudgal mentioned is that we have these global best practices, so to speak, and we've seen some of the developing markets adopt these. With regards to India, of course, you've been involved in drafting some of the milestone documents with either leagues or federations or rights holders. What are some of the issues that you need to consider when you're developing integrity guidelines? And do you take some of these international best practices into consideration?
Absolutely. I think I'll answer your earlier question and then go on to this question. When you said where does the responsibility lie, I think responsibility lies across the forum, which Sir Justice Mudgal, Onkar Kedia, and Mr. Mishra addressed, right? So, whereas it is the aspect of integrity pertaining to the internal corruption structure in the federation, right? Which is your issues pertaining to gifts, hospitality, bribes, those aspects. That have to be tackled within the federation itself, which, like FIFA, I'm also part of the World Athletics. IAF, the former, they also have a similar thing where they have a vetting panel, which actually, before anybody who wants to stand for a position is vetted. Once he is vetted, even if in the election, there are candidacy rules and what you can do during an election, what you can't. Now, that is completely lacking in India at this point of time. We have in the sports code basic issues in the sense that, who can vote, how many tenures he can have, the age limit. But the details on candidacy rules, how elections are to be conducted, what kind of gifts you can give, what you cannot do, what kind of public statements you can make, what kind of criticism you can do. Those are completely lacking in India at this point of time. So that needs to be coming from the federation structure. The second is the criminal aspect, which I think Kedia sir picked up on, that the government can give a structure on that aspect.
Hmm.
That this can be the structure on the front of the legal end and everything, and then that has to be enforced, which is the job of the police.
Hmm.
The police effort can be also supplemented by the Federation Integrity Panel, where the disciplinary part can be taken with the Federation, but the criminal enforcement and investigation will always have to be with our law enforcement bodies, which will be the police and eventually the judiciary.
Hmm.
So I think that is how the entire structure will work. Nobody can function when we talk about integrity in isolation. Everybody has to work together.
Hmm.
Now, when we talk about leagues, the new leagues that are coming up, when you said, they can only implement structures pertaining to supporting the integrity operations of the federations, and to some extent providing detailed experience report to the leagues or to the officers eventually if they want to law enforcement authority want to investigate.
Hmm.
I think that is where the functions will lie. Now what happens is, and this is a perception that will come in, is how much the leagues want to invest into this particular function, both on ground integrity as well as bed monitoring and larger analysis, how much they want to invest. Secondly, when they get to know about the incident as well, to what extent they want to handle those processes internally and punish the players, team or official, and how much they want to take it to the enforcement authorities. Because once they take it to the enforcement authorities, it will be in the media, it will be there everywhere, and that will also affect the reputation of the league. So those are all tight balancing act that everybody of us has to manage on a case-to-case basis. It is not, there is no single glove that fits all.
But Vidush, when you
Vivek,
yes,
may I
yes, sir,
comment
sure, sir.
with only one input? I was talking about best practices. You said international best practices. In FIFA, every election to a confederation has to be supervised by a member of the governance committee. He is a supervisor. He has to submit a report for FIFA that it was held in accordance with the procedure prescribed by FIFA. Secondly, there is gender parity. At least one member of the executive of any confederation has to be a woman.
And that brings a lot more kind of parity into the system. So Vidush, what I wanted to ask you as a follow-up was that when you look at this ecosystem, and there are different stakeholders at the ecosystem, and what you are referring to is that even if one stakeholder is not kind of doing their, so to speak, their role, it all kind of falters. So when you look at smaller federations, right, and you look at smaller leagues where the budgets are very limited, and they are struggling to commercially become viable, right, to even put the product out there, viability around that. Integrity seems to be on the back end, because this is like a cost which is an investment. Of course, from a long term, logically it makes sense to have a strong integrity ecosystem and a structure, but the federations just don't have necessarily the wherewithal, or some of the leagues, smaller leagues, don't have the wherewithal or the financial structures to actually implement these systems. So what can we do as the sports industry, or what can the government do to ensure that at least some basic structure is in place, or if there is a probe, then it's been handled properly?
So that, I think, 2-3 things. It's not that something is lacking. So government has the sports code, so they do check if certain federations are following certain norms or not. So you have issues pertaining to corruptions and those level at the official level, they have certain checks and balances in place already. Second, the government, that is the CBI, also has an integrity unit within it. So they are looking into sports, specifically only to sports issues. So I know that they've looked into cricket match fixing at some point of time. They've also looked at age fraud within sports. They've also looked at certain organized doping. So I think the larger perception has to change, that maybe in India, sports betting is still illegal. So maybe it's an issue of organized crime. Maybe we have to look at sports betting and the issue of corruption as an organized crime rather than a sports specific issue. And if you start looking at it as an organized crime, then the whole perception will change. The role of CBI will also increase, and more bandwidth will be able to be given to it. In fact, when we did the IPL probe, and Mr. Mishra will obviously be able to highlight it more, the whole reason why that issue of this betting that came in is because the police was actually tapping an issue pertaining to organized crime, and in that point of time, something related to betting was mentioned, and this whole investigation around that started. So it was not that they were not looking for investigation on IPL or betting in sports or something. They were looking at an organized crime, and they found that organized crime to a large extent had entrenched sports betting within it. So that is, I think, where the larger extent is, but Mishra sir will be able to expand more on that probably.
So, Mr. Mishra, what are your thoughts on where are some of the key gaps in the overall ecosystem, and what can be done to fill those gaps?
Hello, Vivek, can you hear me?
Hello, Mr. Mishra, can you hear us?
Hello, Vivek, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can. Yeah. Sir, we are struggling.
Most of these.
Sir, we are struggling to hear you. Mr. Mishra, we are struggling to hear you a little bit. It probably seems to be a patchy connection.
No, can you hear now?
Yeah, it's better. Yes.
Yeah. So one is the state versus union issue. Second key challenge is the privacy laws. You can't get around that. Why I'm saying privacy laws? See, most of these match fixing, spot fixing, there are a lot of telephone calls which are made. And unless you know who spoke to whom, you can't really crack that case. Now, who spoke to whom is a very closely guarded privacy matter. You can't, there are only 9 agencies in India who are allowed to tap telephones. So, and I'm sure even an agency like DSF doesn't have that power, so I don't visualize a sports body getting that power to tap the telephones.
Yeah.
As Biduspat just told, that it was the unintended outcome of a telephone tapping. Yes, the telephone was being tapped for, and then somebody spoke about so and so. Do you want to pay back the money or something will happen? You know, that's how everybody got interested in it. And there is always an underworld link. There is so much of money, and it's all the betting market is illegal, and that is why this underworld thrives. So these are the key challenges. But this has to be looked at organized crime, as Biduspat said. Now, the moment we assume that there is a gangster involved, or there is an underworld connection, or there is a drug lord connection, then it becomes organized crime. Then it becomes easy for an agency to work on it.
Yeah.
But then the sports bodies have no clue to what is happening. So that's a key challenge. I don't know how this will be sorted out. There are wise men like Justice Mudgal. He will have much better thought on this subject. I only know the problem. He knows probably the solution.
Yeah. And Mr. Kedia, what Mr. Mishra mentioned are a lot of challenges which are after the fact, when something has happened, and how to actually probe, conduct the probe and stuff like that. But from the government perspective, and you also mentioned some of the frameworks that the government set, they are more precautionary in nature. So what are some of the things that the government, the sports ministry or the Sports Authority of India or state sport authorities are doing from a precautionary perspective to ensure that something like this doesn't happen, or at least reduce the likelihood of corruption happening?
See, many countries, they have framed laws. And in our country also, there is an attempt to frame a law. And the law was actually prepared. And if there is a law which says that there would be exemplary punishment, very stringent punishment for these fraudulent activities, that itself is a good check on such practices. Unfortunately, that bill could not become a law. At that time, the thinking in the government was that should not be a proliferation of law. And can we achieve the same objective by changing existing rules of law? Or by adding to the existing laws, can we achieve the same objective? So I don't know that how far that issue was taken, but today we have a law. This is true. But what I feel is ultimately what Mr. Mishra said is the question of credibility. If there is no credibility, the entire sports ecosystem suffers. When we talk integrity issues, when we talk sports code or sports bill, I feel there is a lopsided emphasis on age and tenure restrictions. That a president should not have more than 3 terms. The age of an player should not be more than 70. Those are the issues which, in a way, they hijack the whole issue of integrity and the requirement, the relevance, and why sports code is essential or why a sports bill is essential. Because sports code and sports bill had several provisions on which there could be no controversy. What is the problem in following RTI, for example? What is the problem in getting timely, getting the accounts, annual accounts timely audited? What is the problem in suo moto disclosure of certain information on the websites of sports bodies? So there are certain things. What is the problem in ensuring that proper selection is done and the dates of competitions are announced, the methods of selection are announced? All these things are beyond any controversy. I think there should be, these are the things which should be suo moto adopted by all the bodies, including sports bodies. But the unfortunate part is these are the issues on which much discussion does not take place. And the discussion is hijacked by the issues of age and tenure restrictions.
So I would just like to ask one last question, same question for everyone, starting with Justice Muddal. Sir, if you were to say what are the top 1 or 2 key areas of improvement that can help our integrity framework improve, what would be those, like the lowest hanging fruits right now from your perspective?
It has to be an independent person, not associated with the body, who should be in charge. Independent person or persons, who should look after the integrity. And that is one sure solution. FIFA has followed it, I would say, successfully. Of course, I'm there, so I wouldn't want to say it too much. But FIFA has followed it very successfully. It's, I won't say it's the perfect one, but we are nearly there.
Vidush?
I think I take from sir, what is to say, have independent people who are looking at integrity. You cannot have related people looking at integrity at the national level. Borrow from the best practices that are already existing and frame your own rules and regulations. Second, which is a key issue, which is completely lacking, is education. Now, till the time the young people as well as even the coaches, administrators are educated in what is right, what is wrong, what they should not do, what they are allowed to do. Without that, I think the perception and the whole knowledge will not build up around integrity in sports. And that is, I think, the key area on which I think the further pedestals will have to be built in. That is a law on sports integrity coming into place. Otherwise, if there is no internal education and perception built in on this is right, this is wrong, a law will not be able to be followed and enforced in a proper manner. So I think education is very, very key.
Okay, great. Mr. Mishra, from your perspective?
Independent person.
Sorry, sir. I think we are losing you again.
I said, I fully agree with Muddal, sir, that it has to be an independent person. There should not be any conflict of interest. And of course, education is important, as Vidush has pointed out. But all these things will come with time. I think one IPL investigation has given rise to some bit of sensitivity about integrity, and more such action by various sports bodies will definitely lead to a better situation.
Okay. And Mr. Kedia, your thoughts on this?
What I feel is that the Indian Olympic Association and all recognized sports associations and their state bodies, they should all agree on certain basic tenets of integrity. They may not agree on age and tenure restrictions, but as I said, there are certain things which are beyond controversy, and it should be accepted and implemented by everybody. Like RTI should be applicable on all. Like suo motu disclosure should be accepted by all. The selection procedure should be transparency. It should be put on the websites. Those basic things all should agree. Representation of women, representation of athletes. But then again, the issue of credibility is there. And I agree with the previous two panelists that credibility will come when there would be independent structures. Because, you know, when the independent structures are there, then only the credibility will be there. So there may be problem of resources with one particular association, but it's no problem in setting up common independent mechanisms. Like there can be a common ethics commission for all the bodies. There can be a common dispute resolution mechanism for all the sports bodies. There can be an athletes commission for all the sports bodies. So there should be some common independent structures which should be in place. Second thing that I would like to mention is I feel that efficiency issue is as important as integrity issue. Because lots of our problems are not because of integrity, but because of inefficiency. I feel that the technical issues of sports should be handled by experts. And there was a time when we were thinking that in every sports body, at least in major sports associations, there should be a CEO who is an expert in sports, and he should be managing technical issues. If I think that happens, much of our problems which happen due to inefficiency will go away.
Great, thank you, sir. So thank you so much to all our panelists. Of course, the sports industry in India is still growing. It's still small, and of course, the integrity ecosystem needs lots of development. But thank you so much for your insights, and hopefully we can start executing some of these ideas. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
Vivek, and thank you all my panelists.
Thank you,
Thank you
sir.
very much. Okay, bye.
Bye. Thank you.